What's up, guys? Look what finally showed up today. These are the hose clamps for my Samco silicone hoses. These guys here, which is terrific. They showed up, eventually. The problem is that it's Sunday, February 25th, and my track day was last Sunday, February 18th. So I didn't get to put them on before the track day. So the track day videos that I've already posted, hopefully you guys have watched without the hoses. But the bike is pretty much in the same state that we left it in the last episode. So let's get to installing some hoses, shall we? Right after this. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Derek. Welcome to my channel, Euro Superbike Life, or ESBK Life for short. Check the swag. If you want some, hit your boy up. I might be able to hook you up. Nevertheless, before we get started, as you can see, my garage door is open. It is a beautiful Sunday morning here in the Valley of the Sun. It's about 65, 70 degrees. Way too nice to have doors closed. So you may hear cars driving by, dogs, kids, lawn equipment, whatever. So I'm going to apologize now. Nevertheless, like all my other videos and my how-tos, I like to show you what you guys are going to need for the job before we get started. So let's head on over to my bench and I'm show you what you're going to need to replace some hoses and the coolant. We are over here at my tool chest, and here are all items that you are going to need to do this job, minus a stand, obviously. So let's go through these one by one, shall we? Obviously, you're going to need some distilled water. I have water wetter as well. Whatever it is, whether it be antifreeze for you or engine ice or Kool-Aid, whatever it is you need, make sure that you have distilled water and that component. You're going to need some shop towels, a bucket, obviously, to drain everything into, a pair of channel locks or some pliers, a T25, and a T30 Torx bit. You don't need these. I mean, they could be sockets. They don't need to be handhelds like this. A short, stubby, flathead screwdriver, and possibly some snips or some wire cutters or what have you. I'll show you what we're going to need those for a little bit later. And then obviously a stand, because safety first. You want to make sure that you have a rear stand, side paddock stand, or something to make sure that the bike is stable while we're working on it. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being super easy, 10 being, oh my God, I can't do this, let's take it to dealer. This is probably about a 3. I'm going to rate this about a 3. It's a real simple job, but you got to get the tank and everything off the bike, and that can be a little bit challenging for some people. But let's head over to the bike. I'll show you where the hoses are, and then we'll get started on removing stuff. We're over here at the bike, and as you can see, I've already removed all of the fairings and the tank. So again, in order to do this job, you'll need to get the tank out of the way, which means you'll need to remove the rear seat. You'll need to remove the left and right upper fairings. You won't necessarily need to remove this upper fairing that goes here if you're running stock fairings, but I'm running race fairings, so the whole thing comes off at once. But if this is a stock bike for you, you can leave this upper fairing that goes in this area just fine. But you'll need to remove the side fairings, the belly pan, and so forth. Before we get started, if you remember where we left off last, the bike was actually in this condition, but I hadn't found a location for the remote preload adjuster. So you can see I've mounted it here on the left side of the bike, and I'm using one of the passenger rear set mounting locations. So later on, I'm going to wire tie or safety wire all 3 of these bolts here. Right now they're held on with red Loctite, but it's a track bike, things vibrate. So we'll safety wire those, but I think this is in a really good location. It allows me good access. And there again is that beautiful Nitron Racing Pro rear shock that I love. It's amazing. Get yourself one, trust me. Anyway, the other thing, if you've already watched both of my track day videos, you'll know that I sprung a bit of a leak and at the track. It wasn't major, it was just weeping, but I had to find, it was over here on this right side, and I had a bit of oil, and you can see here on the fairing, the inside fairing, there's a trail of oil running down, but it's not pooling, but you can see that I had a bit of an oil leak there, and it was actually at speed, it was blowing back on the outside. So I found where that was coming from. It's not from my nice new valve covers. As you can see, they're all clean here. But it is coming from my manually adjustable cam chain tensioner. So this is a manual one. I forgot the maker of this, but there's a couple of O-rings in here, and it's weeping out of here, and then wind catches it and it blows it all back on the fairing. So at some point in the next month or two before my next track day, whenever that may be, I'll need to replace that cam chain tensioner. Not a big deal. We'll go through that as well. But nevertheless, let me get to the hoses and show you which ones we're going to remove. So seeing we're already over here on the right side of the bike, this is a 4-hose kit. And one of the hoses needs to be cut to length. So we're going to remove this hose here. This is the first major hose. Here's hose number 2 that comes off of the radiator filler neck. Then we have these 2 hoses, which are 3. So we have one, in the Samco kit, they provide you just one big hose and you cut it to length because they're the same hose. But one hose that runs down here, and then the other hose from the Overflow runs down all the way down to here. And then the final hose is over here on the left side, and we're going to replace this hose. And as you can see, this hose dips through the frame and under the tank, which is why we need to remove the tank. So if you're ever wondering, this is your thermostat housing, and it's held on with 3 bolts, 1, 2, and then 1 up under here that you can't see. We don't need to remove that. We're just going to remove this hose clamp and pull the hose off. And seeing it's right above our starter, this is our starter right here, we don't want any coolant getting on that or any type of liquid. So we'll stuff some rags in there as when we pull this hose off, because we're bound to lose a little bit of fluid in there. But just in case you're wondering, this is your starter. This is your thermostat housing that houses your thermostat, obviously. This hose comes off of here. And this is obviously your radiator. So on the other side, let me back up. There are a number of ways to drain your coolant system on this bike. Now, the most common way is if you follow this hose from your radiator, lower radiator hose, if you follow this down, this will connect to your water pump, and it's held on with 5 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, you say there's a 6th one, but this is a different size. So these are all T30 Torx that hold the cover onto your water pump. This is our bleeder screw, and it's a Torx T25, so it's a different one. So what most people do is they remove this hose clamp, pull the hose off, drain it into the bucket. That's super quick once you pull off the radiator cap. The other way, and it's a little bit slower, but it's probably less messy. Sorry, car drove by. The other way is to remove this air bleeder screw and just let it slowly drain into the bucket. Again, not as fast, but it's a lot cleaner. So if you have a really shallow drain bucket to drain your coolant into, this may be a better option for you. The third option, and one that BMW doesn't even recommend that you do, but if we head back over here on the left side of the bike, right here, there's also a drain valve on the bottom of your radiators. BMW doesn't even recommend that you remove that to drain the system, so we're not going to bother with that, but it's an option for you. So again, it's a 4-hose system, 1 here, 3 on the other side. 1 is cut to length. So enough talk. Let's get to removing these hoses and draining the system. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove the safety wire that's on my radiator cap. Now I'm going to grab my channel locks, and we are going to slide back this hose here. Get our bucket up under there. Get myself out of the way here. Now we'll remove our cap. And have it all drain out. So if I pull back a little bit here, now we can finish removing this hose by removing this hose clamp here. And again, we're just going to grab our channel locks.
go. Like I said, the other way is a lot less messy.
We'll let that drain for a minute, and then we'll come back and do the other side. So while the system's still draining, let's remove and drain our overflow tank. We'll first start by clipping off this hose. That's where the wire clips come in, or you can use your flathead screwdriver and sort of pry this off. We're not going to reuse these hose clamps, so it doesn't make any difference as long as you don't mar the mounting surface. You can just clip these off. So the overflow tank is drained, and if you're looking closely, you'll notice that our mount, top of our radiator, goes there. You'll notice that it's not there. In the process of removing said hose clamp, I broke off the plastic nub here. Goes there. And I don't think, because this system is under pressure, I don't think that I can JB weld or super glue that back together. Oh well, these things happen sometimes. So I guess I'm on eBay. Anybody got a cheap radiator they want to sell? Okay guys, it's a few days later, and I chose to use those few days to try and find a new radiator because of this, my broken radiator, this little plastic nub there. And what I found is that a new radiator from my dealer is about $1,000, and did not want to do that. That's a really, really big mistake. So I continued my search, and I found a guy on my S1000RR forum by the name of Chris in Canada. So big shout outs to Chris. Thank you very much. You saved my skin. But Chris is going to send me a pre-owned radiator that will fit my S1000RR for the low, low price of $250 shipped to my door, which is awesome because again, that turns a $1,000 mistake into a $250 mistake. All because I didn't use one of these and I didn't recognize that it was an ear clamp. Had I recognized that it was an ear clamp, I would have gotten these, clipped it off, and we would have been done by now. But I didn't because I wasn't paying attention. So there's a lesson learned: pay attention to everything, even the small details, including the type of clamp that's on your hoses. Otherwise, it could cost you $1,000, or in my case, $250. So the next time you see me, we'll be installing a radiator, some Samco hoses. We're going to flush the system, and then we're going to fill it with water wetter and distilled water. That turns this level 3 job that I put this at into about a 4 or 4.5, maybe even a 5 job, because we got to remove the front wheel and then remove the radiator. Technically, you don't have to remove the front wheel, but you should to give yourself some space and so that you don't damage any vanes on the radiator themselves. But we got to remove the front wheel, then take a bunch of stuff off, then remove the radiator, and then do all of those things. So that makes this job just a little bit more complicated. So like I said, it's now not a 3, it's probably a 4.5, maybe even a 5, depending on the type of equipment you have. Having said that, I want to show you guys something. So this is our overflow tank. You know, there's our cap goes there. This is our overflow tank. And I wanted to show you, I know you guys can't see in there exactly, but there is all types of crud in this overflow tank. That is just foul, 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 nasty. So we're going to flush this out, clean this out really good. But that is just another example of why you should be doing regular maintenance on your bike, changing all the fluids regularly, and just doing some checkup on it, particularly if it's a dedicated track bike or if it's doing double duty as a track day bike and your everyday riding bike kind of thing. So keep up on that maintenance. But that's it for this episode. I am Derek. This is Euro Superbike Life. If you like this video, give it some likes, give it some thumbs up, or smash it if you're into that kind of thing. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And until next time, I'm Derek, Euro Superbike Life. Take care. Have a good one. I almost forgot. I wanted to give you guys a sneak peek at what's coming up in future episodes. Here I have an Olin steering damper and a DDM tuning HID kit for my MVF 3800. We're going to be installing those in a few days, so be on the lookout for that. Now you can go. I'm Derek, Euro Superbike Life. Take care, guys.